Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Malicious Compliance Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and help me get to that 10,000 subscriber mark. In today's story, we have a computer science student who has a group project with 4 other not-so-talented university students. He does all the work, and when he won't give all the credit to his teammates, they tell him to flip off. So he does, much to their dismay. Let's jump right in. I do a computer science degree at university. We had a group work project which was set out in 2 stages. Part A involved making an application and writing a report about it, 50-50 split. Part B, we got feedback from Part A and had to improve upon it. In total, it was 100% of a module. It is also important to note that there was a group contribution report where each student put in how much they thought each student had done. I was in a randomly selected group with 4 others. We each picked a part of the work that we wanted to do. I was apparently the group's most confident coder, so I assigned myself about half of the code, and finished up my work in about the first 3 weeks. Then I worked on other projects I had for other modules. Soon after I finished my work, the others asked me if I could do their parts of the coding too. Initially I protested, as I had my other coursework due, but eventually I said fine, so long as it was noted in the group contribution report. They all agreed. I sweated it out over the next 3 weeks or so alongside my other coursework. I contacted my module organizer explaining that I had done half the work, and they suggested that if people weren't pulling their weight, that maybe I should just leave the group, taking my code with me and do the report myself. That would mean I would have needed to work flat out to produce the report, and I probably would mess it up. I didn't want that. The deadline was in a week, and honestly, I couldn't be arsed. Then the group asked me to do some of the report too, because they couldn't understand how my coding worked. By this point in the project, I felt pretty used by the rest of the group, but I didn't really mind that much, so long as I got the marks. All in all, I worked out that I had done the workload of 3 people. The group approached me and suggested that we claim that we each contributed 20% of the workload to make us look better as a team. When I flatly refused, they exploded, calling me every name under the sun, swearing at me, telling me to flip off. Still, I wouldn't budge. I sent off my group contribution report claiming 60% of the work is mine and giving 10% for each of the other members of my group, and thought that was that. The first hint of a problem came when my module organizer emailed me asking if I had any proof that I had done so much of the work in the project. The rest of the group had each claimed 25% of the work and put me at 0%. To say I was shocked is an understatement. I'd worked my butt off on this project, putting in over 150 hours on the code alone and another 50+ hours on the diagrams and the report, all while attending lectures 20 hours a week, over 7 weeks, which if you do the maths averages in at an extra 4 hours a day, on top of all my other assignments and commitments, etc. There was no way I was going to let this slide. I emailed my module organizer back with the link to the GitHub I used to share the code with the team. GitHub is a source control that shows who made changes to the code, and this showed him that all the commits, versions of the code, were done by me. It proved that I did all of it. Thankfully, we did the whole report on Google Drive, so I could also show him the history on that document by sending him screenshots of all the alterations made by me, proving that I wrote about 20% of the report too. He added it all up and made a special exception for my group, saying he would give me most credit for the work. I think I ended up with 65%, and they all got 11 for the whole coursework Part A. Now they would need 69% to even pass the module. So it turns out that I am not perfect. I flipped up a bit on the code. It had a massive issue in it. Dumb me. For anyone interested, I didn't make an MVC structure correctly, so I only got about 50% of the marks. Luckily, my report sections were near perfect. There were some spelling mistakes, a common thing I do, and formatting, etc. There were a few glaring mistakes from the parts of the report that the rest of the group had written, but other than that, it was not bad. When the rest of my group found out their marks, they started calling me up and emailing me and messaging me, almost for about 3 hours. Happily, I was out at the time and didn't have my phone with me, so I didn't respond. My module organizer had sent them an email saying that they had lied about their contributions. He had proof about it and so corrected their marks accordingly. When I got back to my phone, I screenshotted all the messages they had sent, recorded all the voicemails, including the ones they had sent previously, including the multiple occasions where everyone in the group had told me to flip off, and flip off I did. I sent all the voicemails and screenshots to my module organizer and requested that I be allowed to leave my group. I understood that it would be more work for me, but I'd rather not deal with this toxic group anymore. He approved it while also escalating the situation to the higher-ups. Quitting the group meant that I would be working on Part B all by myself, but critical to my previous group was that I would be taking all of my code with me, removing their access to it. Of course, I cleared this with my module organizer first. They told me that it was fine since it was my work. If I was no longer in their group, the others couldn't submit it anyway. It took me about 2 weeks to fix the error in my code. Then I pretty much had to redo the report from scratch, adding a lot about the code fix. It took me about 7 weeks. As the end of the assignment approached, I got messages from the group members to please come back. We really need you. That kind of stuff. They even offered to pay me. I took a screenshot of the offer and sent it to the module organizer, just to let him know what was happening. Then I just ignored them. I ended up submitting 2 weeks early for the deadline and got 100% on the whole section 2, which is basically unheard of at university, especially by a single person for group work. Later that day, I get an email from a plagiarism and collusion officer. Not someone you ever want to get an email from. Basically, he said I was summoned to a virtual hearing. An external body had looked at my submitted work and my old group submitted coursework and thought it was very similar. I got the whole project my group handed in and my own back as evidence so I could look and prepare myself to answer their questions. I emailed my module organizer to ask if he would support me in this. Basically, the plagiarism and collusion department can choose to punish one group or both groups, but they never punish no one. My module organizer said yes, he will support me in this. Perfect. I prepared for the meeting by going through the hundreds of the commits I made in GitHub while my first group still had access to it. I was trying to find the one that is most similar to what they handed in. I found a perfect match. Not even a single character of code different throughout the thousands of lines of code. When I turned up to the virtual meeting, the VP of Computing was there. This was the guy who could basically do whatever the hell he wanted to us. My old group was asked to present their answer as to why this had happened. This went on and on about how they did all of the code by themselves, blah blah blah. You get the point. This goes on for about 10 minutes. Then I was asked to present my argument. I asked if I could share my screen. The VP was puzzled. Yeah, okay. I shared my screen, showing all the screenshots I had taken, including when they basically begged and offered me money to come back to their group. Some of the people in the meeting weren't even aware that we knew each other. In case this wasn't enough to convince them, I then downloaded a fresh version of what they submitted and a fresh version of one of my commits on the GitHub. I ran it through some trusted comparison software. I narrated while I did this to explain what I was doing, just to be clear. It took a while, but as I knew it would, it came up with no differences. Everyone was stunned. One of the group members uttered, "But..." I just laughed. Then I was quickly asked to leave the meeting as I no longer needed to be involved. It turned out they had cloned one of my commits and they still had a copy on their laptop when I blocked their access to GitHub. As they had not been able to fix it at all, they just submitted it and hoped for the best. One of my friends who was friends with a guy from my old group asked what grade they had gotten. He was told that they failed the whole module. They got a 0 for the second section, which gave them just 5.5% overall for the module. You need 40 to pass. They would have to retake the module over the summer, which would cost all of my old group their placement year jobs. who wants someone who failed a module that badly and who was intellectually dishonest working for them? This meant that each one of them lost out on being paid about 20 grand for the year's work, which is an amount that goes a long way for a university student. Happily, I got mine. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then please hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.